Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 50th edition of New Directors, New Films, presented by the Museum of Modern Art and Film at Lincoln Center. My name is La Francis Hui. I am the festival's co-chair and also a film curator at MoMA. New Directors, New Films is supported by Film at Lincoln Center's New Wave membership program, and Film at MoMA is made possible by Chanel, with additional support provided by the Annual Film Fund. I am very excited to have with me the writer, director, and editor of Wood and Water, Jonas Bak, and who is now speaking from Germany at night. Thanks for joining me, participating in our festival, and congratulations on this debut feature.
Thank you so much, La, and yeah, it's late here. I hope you see me well enough. Yeah, thank you so much. It's an amazing festival. I've been following it for a very long time, and it's really a great honor.
Great. Well, your mother, Anke Bak, plays the lead character in this film. She goes to Hong Kong to visit her son, whom she has not seen for a very long time. And I know that you lived in Hong Kong. I'm not sure when and for how long. Can you talk about your relationship with Hong Kong, and also whether this film is in any way autobiographical?
So Hong Kong, your city, I believe.
Yes.
I lived there from 2000. I lived there for 2 to 3 years, on and off a little bit. And yeah, it was an amazing time. Great to live this adventure in Hong Kong and the exoticity of the place. The people, we had great friends, but we lived there as foreigners, and it was always going to come to an end a little bit. Looking into the future, I couldn't see myself living there for a very long time. So I guess this transition phase of, when the question, where's my home, kind of started weighing a little bit heavy on my mind, is when I decided that I maybe make a film out of the situation that I'm in. Being drawn back towards Europe, to where my root is, where my family is. And at the same time, in Hong Kong, all these political changes, cultural changes were happening. So this all kind of coincided and gave the birth to the film in a way. It is autobiographical because of that, and because I use my own mother in the film. But it's not. The plot is invented. It's a 60-page script that was rehearsed a lot, but and the journey never happened the way it happened in the film. But I think the emotions underneath, that alienation, finding connections again between two different worlds, all this is taken from my mother's own experience, and yeah. So in that sense, it's a question I always struggle to answer, and I always answer it slightly differently, but it is quite autobiographical on an emotional level, but on action, plot, story level, it's not.
Is this the first time your mother is acting in a film? And how was it like to make the decision to actually cast her, and how was it like to ask her to participate?
It's her very first time. In the film, the mother is entering retirement. When I asked my mother to play the part, she was not entering retirement yet, so it was kind of looking into the future a little bit, and maybe that got her interested to act out something that was going to maybe happen to her. I mean, to be honest with you, it was Nuri Ceylan who cast his parents in his early films that kind of gave me the idea, really, to be honest with you, to ask her. And I'd written parts of the script, and we rehearsed, and we decided to give it a go.
Did you incorporate any of her inputs into the screenplay?
Yes, very much. The screenplay adapted as we went along, I would say. The film is really, it's partly directed by her, it's guided by her. The form of the film is also inspired by the way she goes about life. She lives the journey as she would live it in real life. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and she would often say to me, this is not how we would do things in real life. And we had to find compromises every now and then, but yeah. Yeah, she definitely inspired the script.
I mean, as a non-professional actor, I mean, her performance is very naturalistic. Sometimes the film itself feels like a documentary. For example, the fortune telling looks completely real to me. Her encounters with several local men look very authentic and very spontaneous. A pro-democracy protest that we see is a documentation.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you set up this film to be in between fiction and non-fiction?
As I said before, the film is a bit of a projection into the future of, you know, let me start with the script maybe to explain this. At first, I wanted to tell my story of someone alienated in a city which is not his home, and thinking about the idea where is home, struggling a bit mentally maybe. And then I decided that, well, when I explored that, I realized that every story also has, my story is also someone else's story, and that they complement each other. And that I looked at how my mother sees this, would see this, and you know that my loneliness, the son's loneliness, is also the mother's loneliness, and I got intrigued in telling the story of the lost son from the mother's perspective, and you know, to learn also from that perspective. So this is how we set off making the film. And in the beginning, the Hong Kong part was very much a dream. I just wrote it as a dream. It's this is why you have certain elements that are maybe then, you know, quite magical in a way maybe, and the journey, we had to bring this dreamlike journey into reality. And I mean, the people that are in the film are just, you know, ideas that I had of how characters could teach us something about life in Hong Kong. And throughout the work on the script, I had to strip this down to, because also of budget and time constraints, because of the protests, everything was up in the air. We had to kind of, you know, adapt a lot, and I had to adapt the script, and I had to choose people that are quite close to me. Not all of them are actors. Some of them are actors. The fortune teller's translator, for example, is an actor. The fortune teller himself is a real fortune teller. So you're right about that. The doorman, for example, is the doorman where I live. Wow. But I mean, this is really the fun part for me. When I made my short films before, I did it in similar ways. You know, taking people around me in a familiar environment and maybe teaching them to act a little bit, or, you know, yeah, just attempting this film adventure with them, and seeing how much they enjoyed it, and how much, you know, their real person adds to the film and to the authenticity of the film. But it was all rehearsed with each one of them, apart from the fortune teller scene. That was, I mean, we didn't understand anything, so you probably understood what he read to her fortune. So you can definitely tell that that was real.
It was translated very well by this other man. Yes.
Yeah. Good.
I do like the way you portray the experience of a traveler very much. Someone who is soaking in unfamiliar sights and sounds, is a mix of feelings of alienation, curiosity, and humility. Someone who is just like actively observing and exploring without making any commentary. Yeah. And can you talk about these sentiments? I mean, you mentioned it earlier that it's partly your experience of living in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And whether it was also your mother's experience of being there.
Yeah. So I think I need to, in order to answer that, maybe summarize what the film is to me. It's literally, be it a dream or not, what happens in Hong Kong, it's for the mother, it's just a step away from sitting behind the window into a new chapter in life. So it's really, it's just one step. It's not, we're not diving into big, the protests, big topics, big themes of, of our times and political events. It's that subtle change from worry to peace of mind by actively stepping out into your future. And it shouldn't be more than that. I really like that, that characters keep their secrets, and which, and I like the distance. I like the wide angle to kind of, use the character almost as a pretext to explore a place, so that that the audience explores this place alongside the mother. In a way, but the internal, what happens to her happens beforehand. We learn about the worries and the loneliness beforehand, and it's just one step in the right direction without, over dramatizing anything.
Can you talk about the almost and complete absence of the son? Like we don't see him, maybe except for the silhouette. We see him sitting in the living room. I don't know, is that you?
That's me, yeah.
Can you talk about the decision to just basically leave the sun out of the screen? Or...
That was a decision in the edit stages. We had shot a scene where they unite and like quite naturally discuss what has happened in their life, also by the window in the apartment up in the clouds. But I just left that out because it's really a film about my mother. She's the hero. She's my hero, and I wanted to tell her story. And I mean, she finds out about the son. It's clear that he's there, that he will return. But this decision that it's about her. It's her journey and her escape, and maybe leaving doors open for possibly a further sequel to Wood and Water.
Let's talk about some of your formal choices for the film. You shot on 16mm film, which gives the film a very rich texture, and it pairs extremely well with a lot of these static takes. I like a take of the door, the facade of a house, the forest. And I love this take, like your mother looks down on the ground and then the wind is blowing some dust in a circle. I just love that. I remember that very well. I don't know why. I like how they're composed and the pace in which they are presented. They give the film an overall sense of calm and peace. Can you talk about these aesthetic choices?
Yes. So the film is structured around dualities. Western, Eastern spirituality and culture, being alone, being together, rural and city living, and I wanted to eliminate polarity through the form. I wanted the transitions, the connections between the worlds to be seamless. It's meant to be a gentle bridge between the two worlds. And it's also inspired, as I said earlier, by the way my mother goes about life. She's quite a gentle, subtle person. So you beautifully said that it's a graceful journey somewhere in the director's new film's description, and the grace, that's my mother. She brought that to the film, I would say. Regarding the shots, as I said already, well, film to me, it's just very tangible. I'm quite a nostalgic person, and I've always shot a lot on photography, analog, and just to keep the memories and make them just a little bit more special. And it was also a good way of working with 16mm, because we gave it a bit extra care, and it helped my mother not to do 50 takes, but just to rehearse it properly and do it 2 or 3 times only. So altogether, everybody was just, you just had a feeling you're doing something a little bit extra special in a way, or just a very nice additional stress to have. That 16mm was beautiful in that sense, and the form is also, I wanted to make a film Tai Chi was there from the very beginning, and I said to myself, try to make a film that is as gentle as and as careful as a Tai Chi move.
Mm. I want to talk a little bit more about the duality that you mentioned. It is interesting that this character goes from a very tranquil environment, the Black Forest in Germany, to one of the world's like craziest, most hectic, fast-paced cities, where she finds peace and connects with her inner self. You would think the opposite would happen, right? Going to the Black Forest is a place to find peace. I mean, Hong Kong is filled with people, traffic, noises, not to mention the pro-democracy protests that we see in the film. You were capturing Hong Kong during some of its most turbulent months. And here we have this woman having a spiritual moment of peace and discovery. Can you talk about the irony and the contrast?
To be honest, that wasn't really intended. I wanted to link the cultures in a gentle way, in a non-polarizing way, and it should bring out what connects us rather than what separates us. So what would separate us is noise and quiet, but I wanted it to be a seamless transition, and you know, it was really hard not to portray Hong Kong in such a welcoming and also calming way. I would say maybe because of what was going on with the protest. As an outsider, it was an incredibly uplifting experience at first. I mean, it's strange to describe, but to answer your question, it was not the plan to have a stark contrast between the two worlds, but to kind of connect them seamlessly.
Well, this work is a work of poetry, I think. It's beautiful. And what are you planning to do next?
Thank you. I try to stay, I want to stay with Hong Kong a little bit. I'm writing something that is maybe a continuation of Wood and Water, and it would tell the story of a youngish couple who are leaving Hong Kong, who have to leave Hong Kong because of what's going on, and the guy might be the son, and the girl is an actual Hong Konger who loses her home while the guy tries to find his home again back in Europe. And it's the question, how does love survive in such a turbulent world? It's basically the return son.
Well, it sounds very exciting, and I like the Hong Kong that's seen through your eyes. So I will be anticipating that new work very much. And once again, thank you so much for joining our festival, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me, and we appreciate it. Thank you.